Norman Bates. Norman transforms matricide into customer service, operating a motel where checkout is permanent, and the continental breakfast comes with a side of existential dread. Basically, Airbnb if the host had unresolved mommy issues and access to taxidermy equipment. His split personality isn't mental illness but architectural problem. Two tenants sharing one brain with no lease agreement, and fundamentally different approaches to conflict resolution. The Bates Motel represents hospitality as horror, where the promise of shelter becomes trap for unsuspecting travelers, like a bed and breakfast that takes "make yourself at home" as binding legal contract. Norman embodies the terror of inherited trauma, psychological damage passed down through generations like cursed family heirloom that no one remembers how to properly dispose of. His mother's voice doesn't haunt him. It franchises itself through his consciousness, proving that some business models are too toxic even for capitalism. The shower scene reveals that privacy is illusion and vulnerability invitation. Every moment of assumed safety contains potential for violation by someone who views boundaries as suggestions rather than laws. Ramsay Bolton. Ramsay perfects cruelty as recreational activity, treating torture like competitive sport where the only rule is that there are no rules, and the scoring system rewards creativity over efficiency. Imagine the Olympics if they were organized by someone who considered the Geneva Convention a list of suggestions. His methods aren't random violence, but systematic psychological demolition, breaking people with the patience of master craftsman who takes genuine pride in his work and never rushes the process. Ramsay represents inherited evil refined through generational improvement, taking his father's pragmatic brutality and adding artistic flourishes that would make Renaissance masters weep, though probably not from appreciation. His marriage to Sansa demonstrates that even love can be weaponized when someone views human connection as ownership opportunity rather than emotional bond. Like signing a lease that turns out to be a hostage situation with better catering, the flaying of skin becomes metaphor for stripping away human dignity layer by layer until only raw terror remains. It's performance art where the medium is suffering, and the audience consists of people too horrified to leave, but too afraid to intervene. Tom Ripley. Tom weaponizes charm itself, using charisma like surgical instrument to dissect other people's lives and wear their identities, like designer clothing borrowed without permission or intent to return. Basically, identity theft elevated to performance art with Oscar-worthy production values. His talent isn't murder, but metamorphosis, the ability to become someone else so completely that the original person becomes inconvenient reminder of previous mistakes that need correction. Ripley represents the horror of malleable identity, the suggestion that personality is just really convincing costume that can be changed with sufficient motivation and complete absence of moral constraints. His murders aren't crimes of passion, but necessary maintenance for elaborate life performance that requires occasional cast changes to maintain dramatic tension. The mirror doesn't reflect his true self because his true self is whatever reflection serves his current needs. Identity becomes strategic decision rather than fundamental characteristic, like choosing an outfit except the outfit is someone else's entire existence and the accessories are their hopes and dreams. Leland Palmer. Leland channels evil through supernatural possession, transforming paternal love into predatory consumption while maintaining the facade of small-town respectability, like having a demon as roommate who insists on splitting the utility bills but never does dishes and occasionally murders people. Bob doesn't inhabit Leland, but reveals what was always lurking beneath suburban normalcy, proving that horror's greatest hiding place is plain sight and dental insurance. The possession becomes metaphor for how evil operates through existing structures of trust and authority, turning protective relationships into hunting grounds where vulnerability becomes invitation for violation. Twin Peaks itself represents the illusion of innocence, every white picket fence hiding darkness that makes the fence necessary in first place, like a neighborhood watch program organized by the very criminals it's supposed to prevent. Leland's dancing suggests that evil can find rhythm in chaos, that destruction can become art form when practiced by someone who truly understands the medium and has access to good background music. The Black Lodge reveals that some doors shouldn't be opened because what's behind them was never meant to interact with reality where people still believe in things like justice and cherry pie. Esther. Esther weaponizes innocence itself, using childlike appearance as camouflage for predatory intelligence that views adoption as career opportunity rather than family formation. Basically, if a business school case study gained sentience and decided to specialize in domestic terrorism, her hormonal condition isn't medical anomaly but evolutionary advantage, proving that sometimes nature produces perfect predators who understand that the best hunting ground is the human heart's capacity for unconditional love. Esther represents the horror of inverted protection. Every parental instinct becomes vulnerability to be exploited by someone who studied child psychology like military tactical manual. Her paintings aren't artistic expression, but territorial markings, documenting conquest of families who thought they were providing shelter to someone who needed help, rather than hiring someone who specialized in making help seem permanently unnecessary. The revelation of her true age transforms every previous interaction into calculated manipulation, proving that some secrets aren't hidden, but simply wearing very convincing disguises that make everyone complicit in their own deception. Gollum demonstrates how obsession becomes identity, transforming from hobbit into creature defined entirely by want for something that fundamentally cannot be possessed, like a customer loyalty program that gradually replaces your personality with brand allegiance until you forget what you originally came to buy. The ring doesn't corrupt him, but reveals corruption's patient methodology. How desire, given sufficient time and feeding, can consume everything that made someone recognizably human until only hunger remains. His split personality represents internal negotiation between who he was and what he's becoming, like having a board meeting where one board member gradually votes out all the others until they're the only voice that matters. Gollum embodies the horror of eternal wanting, desire so pure it transcends the object desired and becomes sustainable lifestyle choice that makes happiness impossible and misery inevitable. The caves represent self-imposed exile from world that no longer contains anything worth wanting except the one thing that makes wanting worthwhile, creating perfect closed loop of suffering that generates its own energy and never requires outside maintenance. Amy transforms marriage into an elaborate performance piece where love becomes evidence in case she's building against everyone who fails to appreciate her properly. Basically, if wedding planning became blood sport and the reception never ended because the guest list kept requiring updates. Her disappearance isn't escape but strategic repositioning, proving that sometimes the best way to win argument is to become the argument while making everyone else look like they're losing debate they didn't know they were having. Amy represents the weaponization of victimhood, how suffering can become currency in social economy where sympathy equals power and authenticity becomes performance metric judged by people who confuse intensity with honesty. Her diary creates alternate reality so compelling that truth becomes minority opinion in story. She's writing about her own life, making fiction more convincing than fact through superior narrative structure and better character development. The cool girl monologue reveals that identity itself can be market research, that personality can be focus group tested and optimized for maximum appeal to target demographic of one specific person who isn't paying enough attention to notice the product placement. Mishima. Kazuya inherits family business where the product is violence, and the corporate culture encourages throwing your relatives off cliffs to improve quarterly performance metrics. Basically, if succession planning involved literal succession of increasingly creative homicide attempts, his devil gene isn't supernatural curse but genetic predisposition toward treating morality as competitor brand that needs to be eliminated through hostile takeover of his own conscience. The Mishima family represents capitalism's final evolution, where blood relations become market relationships and love becomes leveraged buyout opportunity that always ends in bankruptcy for someone. Kazuya's fighting style transforms patricide into performance art, proving that some family traditions are worth preserving, even when preservation requires eliminating everyone who remembers why the tradition started in first place. His corporate empire demonstrates that evil scales efficiently when properly managed. Individual cruelty becomes global operation through effective delegation and strategic partnership with people who share similar values regarding the optimal ratio of suffering to profit margins. Heroes die, villains become legends. Subscribers become family. Choose wisely and join us in the shadows. The comment section is where your darkness belongs.